Hello everyone, welcome to Easy Economics. How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing good. So today I brought for you all October November 2025 0455 variant 23 paper 2. We'll be solving section B questions today. Let's see what this paper has brought for us today. We'll begin with question number 3, reading the stimulus and then answering the corresponding questions. Alright, the question says central banks influence their country's money supply. They also regulate commercial banks. Households benefit from these commercial banks in several ways. Commercial banks have recently introduced new technology. Global online banking has increased by 14% between 2019 and 2022, and the advances in technology were combined with the greater use of division of labor. Now, what are they saying? They are saying that in any economy, central bank plays a pivotal role, and they not only help manage the money supply, they also regulate the commercial banks. And in recent years, they have introduced certain technology, and this technology combined with division of labor has brought in wonders. So now the first part says identify two ways central bank differs from commercial banks. Now notice it's a 2-mark question. Now in order to answer this question, you are going to provide a character trait or a function of a central bank, and for that you need to provide a corresponding character trait for commercial banks such that the difference is stated clearly. It's a 2-mark question. So the marks are going to be allocated in such a way that you are going to provide the first character trait for the central bank, and for that you're going to provide the corresponding character trait for the commercial bank as well, and then you're going to provide the second character trait for the central bank, and then you're going to provide a contrasting trait for commercial bank. So now for instance, you're going to say that central banks in any economy are owned by the government or the public sector, and they are responsible for managing the monetary policy of the economy. Like for instance, they control the money supply, or they determine the interest rate, or they print the currency, or they're responsible for minting of coins. Whereas commercial banks are owned by the private sectors, they are run with the aim of making profit, and they serve consumers, households, and businesses. Now notice we provided the function of the central bank, and in that domain only we provide a contrast of commercial banks. The second point could be written as central banks lend to the government and to the commercial banks. They are also known as lenders to the last resort, whereas commercial banks only provide loans to households and the general public. Or if you do not want to write any of these 2 points, you could even say that central banks manage the foreign exchange rate. They buy and sell currency to manage the exchange rate of the country. However, commercial banks buy and sell foreign currency for firms and households. So now you can have a clear picture. Moving forward, part B. Part B is an explain question. Now, it's a 4-mark question. Now, we know in order to answer a question with the keyword of explain, we need to provide one reason, give an explanation, you'll get 2 marks. And the second reason and a corresponding explanation, and you'll get full 4 marks. Now, we need to provide 2 characteristics of coins such that enables the coins to serve as functions of money. So now you could say that maybe coins are homogeneous, that means coins of same value are similar, or you could say coins are portable, that means you can easily carry them in your wallets, in your bags, and they can serve as a store of value. Or you could say that coins are durable, that means they do not wear off and they are non-perishable. You could also say that coins are divisible, that means they serve as a medium of exchange. So you can choose any 2 characteristics and you can expand on these answers, give a proper explanation, and you'll get full marks. Moving forward, part C. Now, part C is an analyze question. It's a 6-mark question. Now, they are asking us analyze the services provided to households by commercial banks. So, you're not just only going to list the services that are being provided by commercial banks to households, you are going to analyze how or in what ways they are beneficial or they are suitable for households. And had there not been commercial banks, then what would have happened to households? Or in what way they are fruitful? So, firstly, you're going to say that commercial banks enable households to save their incomes. They provide them with options to deposit their money in current and savings account. For the day-to-day transactions, the daily transactions, they can put their money in current account. And if they want to save their money and earn interest on it, they earn earnings on it, they can deposit it in an earnings account and earn interest on it. Further, banks provide them with the facility of credit payments. They provide them with credit cards and debit cards, and they provide them with the facility of bank overdraft as well to pay later on if they exceed their amount uh, of in their payments. Right? They also provide them with the safe and secure transactions can be made through online banking. They also offer them with safe deposits and lockers where they can save or store their valuables at a certain annual rate which the bank charges them for providing the services. Banks also provide them with certain advisory services and financial services. They help them buy and sell stocks, and they help them with the debt management. Further, banks also lend to households and they provide them loans for making house purchases or for mortgage payments and for buying cars, right? All right. So you can write these points, develop a chain analysis, a coherent analysis, and you'll get full 6 marks, that higher tier band. Moving forward, part D of this question, it's a discussed question. It's an 8 mark. And we know in order to provide answer for an 8 mark question, we need to produce a well-balanced argument, not necessarily brushing off with the conclusion, but a solid, well-balanced argument with both sides developed. So now they're talking about whether or not division of labor is going to be beneficial for workers. So first we're going to explain what is division of labor. Division of labor is breaking down of work into specialized tasks. So we could say that yes, maybe division of labor is beneficial for workers in ways that it helps workers perform the tasks quickly and the tasks are simple and easy to do such that they get specialized in the performance of these tasks in such a way that they are perfect in the performance of it. And if they are paid on a per piece rate or on the performance of these petty tasks, individual tasks, so it's more likely that the productivity is going to increase and they are going to contribute towards the increase of the output. As a result, their earnings are going to increase and they are going to enjoy higher incomes. Plus, these tasks can be easily learned, which means that workers can enhance their skill set and they can be easily trained and they can enjoy higher levels of income. Plus, the performance of these tasks on a repetitive basis boosts their confidence and their interest might also enhance and their creativity might also boost. However, it could be that maybe these repetitive tasks might not add to any learning of new skills and might be monotonous for these workers and they might find no pride in performance or they might not find any ownership in the performance of the work. Furthermore, since each worker is responsible to perform a single task and unless the workers are present, so the entire output cannot be produced on time. So it could be that absence of workers could hamper the completion of the final output. It could also be that maybe these workers can be easily replaced by technology. So maybe their value could not be felt by the management, or maybe the workers might not find any pride and they might find it demotivating. Further, performance of these individual tasks means that these workers are occupationally immobile because they are only good at the performance of these small individual specialized tasks. So their mobility is greatly hampered and they might not be able to take opportunity of jobs which might offer higher wages since their skill set is highly limited. So yes, you can say that although division of labor benefits workers through greater efficiency, through skills and higher incomes, yet the extent of these benefits depend on the working conditions, on the salaries, and on the job security that these jobs offer. So you can brush it off with a solid conclusion and earn that full 8 marks. All right, moving forward, question number 4. The question number 4 says the Central African country Chad has a triangle-shaped population pyramid and a high level of poverty. It regularly has an overall deficit in the current account of the BOP. It has a surplus on its secondary income. However, its trade in goods, trade in services, and primary income are usually in deficit. Some economists suggest that the government should impose quotas to reduce the trade in goods deficit, define primary income. Now, what is this stimulus about? They are talking about a Central African country which has a triangular base pyramid, shape pyramid. Now, a triangle shaped pyramid is one which means that they have got population which is highly young. That means they have got a broad base and they have got low life expectancy. So this means there are lesser people going beyond the age of 70 maybe. So there is a high amount of young population, and even in the middle, maybe there's an influx of people. Maybe it could be immigration is more. So the young population is more, and as you go up the age spiral, so it narrows down. So this means there are less elderly and more of younger population. So this is how the Chad government is. So it has got a high poverty, a high young population, and consistently it has got a deficit in its BOP. And economists believe that it should impose quotas to reduce this deficit. Now, first part is asking us to define primary income. So, primary income is income earned from the ownership of factors of production, which means wages, profit, rent, interest received from abroad. So, what are we going to do is we are going to provide a definition and we are going to provide examples and we're going to get full 2 marks. So the point to remember is that primary income is income earned from factors of production across countries. So it's the income earned from providing factors of production to another country. So it will include wages, that is income from labor, rent, income from land, interest is income from capital, and profit is income from entrepreneurship. So for instance, if a child worker is working in the UAE and it sends its salary back, so this is the primary income for child, and a company in Chad pays interest to a foreign bank. So this is the primary income outflow. So in the balance of payments, primary income would be recorded as money earned from abroad for factor services and money paid abroad for factor services. So I hope this is clear. So you've answered this question in this way, you've provided the definition and cited the examples, you're going to get full 2 marks. Moving forward, part B. Part B says identify, explain two influences on the country's population pyramid. So now notice it's a triangular base pyramid. So this means that it has got a high birth rate and it has got a narrow top. And you can also talk about that it has got maybe an influx of population, that means it got a high immigration rate. So 1 mark for the reason identified, for the influence and the explanation will give you 2 marks. The second influence identified and the reason explained, full 4 marks. So you could say that since Chad has a high birth rate, it has got a wide base, it has got a more amount of dependent population, a high amount of young people, or it has got a narrow top, which means it has got a high death rate, and since its life expectancy is low, so there are less elderly, that's why it's narrow at the top. Or you could also say that maybe it has got a low life expectancy because due to poor health or nutrition, it has got a narrow top. Or you could even say that maybe it's broader in the middle because maybe there's an immigration of people, there's an influx of people more. So less people leaving the country and maybe there are more people coming in. Right? So you've identified the influences and expand on that, you get full 4 marks. Moving forward, part C. Now, part C is an analyzed question. They are asking us to analyze the causes of poverty. So, now there are two kinds of poverty, absolute and relative. Absolute poverty is that the people are unable to have access to the basic necessities of life. And relative poverty is when people are earning less in comparison to others or the higher incomes groups, right? So, once we're talking about poverty, we are going to identify reasons and then we are going to develop the chain and cause analysis. So, we're going to say that yes, Chad is affected by poverty. It may be because of, or the majority of the population is influenced by high levels of poverty because it offers poor health services. So, majority of population is falling sick. That means their productivity level falls and they are not able to report to work. And frequent illnesses means that their income level is relatively low and their earnings are low. So, they not only experience relative poverty, they also experience absolute poverty. So maybe they are more dependent on, let's say, unemployment benefits rather than having a consistent streamlined flow of income. It could also be that maybe high levels of inflation and unstable prices is deteriorating or eroding the real value of money and deteriorating the purchasing power of money. So disposable income might be less, right? Or it could be that maybe too much money chasing too few goods, so there's demand for inflation. So again, money is not being able to buy the same basket of goods that it was earlier, so people are experiencing relative poverty, right? It could also be that maybe Chad, the majority of the population is affected by high levels of corruption, which means that there are only certain income groups which enjoy high levels of income and the rest suffer. So the relative poverty might be really high, causing standard of living to fall, and as a result, people are going to be hit by poverty. It could also be that majority of the population is employed in the primary sector or in the agriculture sector, which means earnings are relatively low and standard of living would be less. So the GDP per capita would be less, which means it's a developing country. So if the majority of the population is working in the primary sector, so their earnings are going to be less and standard of living is going to be low. So they are going to be living under poverty. It could also be that maybe the tax rates are regressive. This means the poor are penalized and there is a great disparity of incomes. So this would cause a wide gap between high income groups and low income groups. So again, it would cause what? Increase in poverty levels. It could also be that maybe a majority of the population is unemployed, maybe because of recession or maybe because of structural unemployment. So that means again the standard of living is going to fall and people are going to witness again relative and absolute levels of poverty. It could also be that maybe the country is hit by certain calamities or diseases which might cause people to get homeless and jobless, and this economic crisis is again deteriorating the quality of life and causing people to get a victim of poverty. Low education means also limited skills, and which means people would be working in low paid jobs, again earning less and being under poverty levels. Or maybe that the government has poor budget and lesser revenue, so it's not spending on infrastructure, so there are lesser jobs or lesser jobs with high opportunities and high earning, which means again majority of the population is forced to work maybe in jobs which pay them low, right? So they are experiencing poverty. So pick on these points, expand, develop that coherent analysis, and you're good to go. Moving forward, part D. Now, part D is a discussed question. It's asking whether or not imposition of import quotas will reduce a trade in goods deficit. So now you're going to tell how effective would the imposition of import quotas be in order to reduce the trade in goods deficit. So what are import quotas? Import quotas are limit on the quantity of imports, right? So you are going to say that yes, imposition of import quotas are effective in the reduction of trade in goods deficit to a certain extent, such that they increase the price of the imports, and once the price of the imports rise, so the demand for these imported goods fall and people switch to locally produced substitutes, home produced, domestically produced items. So the demand for domestically produced goods rise, and then these domestically produced firms expand their output such that their market share increase and then their exports increase. So the firms are going to increase higher export revenue. This higher export revenue and a fall in imports could shrink the size of the balance of deficit, and since the locally goods are low price, so their demand is going to rise and these firms are going to enjoy a higher export revenue. However, it could be that these imposition of quota might invite retaliation. That means the trading partners might also import quotas, so our exports or the home country's exports might get affected. It could also be that the exchange rate might appreciate, causing the exports to get less attractive, so the export earnings might fall. It could also be that maybe you impose restrictions on these imported goods. However, they used to comprise of certain key imports that were vital in production of certain goods that you were producing, and it might affect its production. It could also be that maybe the imposition of quotas might not be effective because it might be imposed only on certain goods which form a narrow base. So imposition of import quotas might be insignificant in the reduction of trade deficit. So their imposition might bring in no such major difference in the reduction of the trade deficit. It could also be that maybe there are no local substitutes for the goods on which you impose the quota. So that means that people will be forced to buy then high priced imports. It could also be that maybe it gives rise to the black market. So you import quotas, but then maybe the people are smuggling and finding ways to get it into their country through illegal means. All right, so finally, you could conclude that overall import quotas may reduce a trade in goods deficit in the short run by decreasing the imports, but long term effectiveness would depend upon the competitiveness of the local firms and the demand of the country's goods. This is how you're going to conclude this answer. Moving forward, final question of today's paper. Let's read the stimulus. It says in 2023, the Canadian Prime Minister said that his country's aim was to increase immigration to 500,000 a year. Why? Because the country was experiencing labor shortages, so it wanted to invite people and increase in life expectancy. So it was having less labor and an aging population. So more workers in Canada would do what? Increase the tax revenue to be spent on pensions, and more workers will increase in consumer spending, so they could boost demand, more output, and increase in the immigration of both skilled and unskilled might affect the country's car industry. So now the government wanted people to come into Canada, work, so that they provide for the elderly as well as they boost the demand. Now what are they saying? Identify two causes of an increase in life expectancy. So now why do you think people are living for a longer age? You're going to identify. So just going to list it down. Better healthcare. So since Canada offers excellent medical facilities or high nutrition or access to clean water, excellent healthy food supplies, excellent healthcare facilities for its population, this means people are going to live longer, they're going to be healthier. Or since the inflation level is low, so the real income is going to be high, the GDP per capita is going to be high, or the working environment is really peaceful or productive. So, and there are opportunities for promotion and prospects. So, people are going to live longer. Housing facilities are better, people are more educated. Again, so people are going to live longer and they're going to be healthier. All right. Part B. Explain two ways a firm could attract skilled workers from other countries. So now it's a 4-mark question. So you go to give one reason, how, and then expand on it. You get 2 marks. Then finally give a second reason and then give an explanation. You'll get full 4 marks. Now, how do you think a firm can ask or attract skilled workers from other countries? So by offering more salaries, by offering perks, if it has a good goodwill, if it provides training and professional development and opportunities. So all of these are valid points. And you can say that if a firm offers high salaries, so this means that individuals are going to be earning high, relatively high, they're going to be having a higher disposable income, which means they're going to have higher standard of living. They are going to have more access or better provision to necessities in the luxuries of life, so they're more prone to offer certain jobs. Similarly, if these countries or these foreign firms offer them better remuneration and perks, so worker satisfaction would rise, their productivity would increase, they would be more inclined towards opting for these jobs. There will be lesser burnout and they will be more inclined to serve in your companies. If the firm enjoys a good goodwill and it has a better word of mouth, it heavily employs in CSR, social corporate social responsibility. So individuals are going to work or opt for jobs in your company. If the firm provides sizable training and offers professional development, opportunities for growth, help employees learn new skills, it would increase their occupational and geographical mobility. It provides them housing facilities or provide them with easy visa facilities, insurance, family health, medical facilities. So firms are individuals are going to be attracted and they are going to work. So you're going to give the reasons, expand on it, give an explanation, and get full 4 marks. Moving forward, part C. Part C as an analyzed question. How an increase in consumer spending could increase economic growth? It's an easy question. It's a 6 mark question. So we all know when consumer increase their spending, it boosts aggregate demand. It causes the entire production possibility curve to move outwards because it acts as a signal to firms to expand their output. They are going to employ more resources. They are going to employ more workers. So overall, the employment level of the country is going to increase. Output level is going to rise. Firms are going to expand. Export level is going to rise. The entire PPC, the productive potential of the economy, is going to expand. PPC is going to move outwards. Standard of living is going to rise. GDP per capita is going to rise. Earnings of people is going to rise. Furthermore, when people are going to spend, again, it's going to have a multiplier effect on incomes and spending. So governments would be earning higher direct and indirect taxes, which it could further spend on infrastructure and further give a rise to aggregate demand. So the entire aggregate demand curve is also going to shift outwards, and the firms can further invest and repatriate their profits into research and development and enhance their output levels. The budget of the government would improve, and again, overall economy is going to experience a higher GDP. So this is how it would lead towards higher levels of economic growth. All right. So export earnings is going to rise, and locally also the budget revenue is going to be high. So everybody is going to thrive. So income levels is going to rise, poverty is going to reduce, so people are going to be better off. Part D, final part, discuss whether or not the wages of workers employed by car firms would increase. So we could say that yes, wages of car workers can increase in the future if the demand for cars is going to rise, because it's what? It's a derived demand. So if in future the demand for cars rise, so the demand for car workers is going to increase if these workers possess certain skills which are unique and special. So the demand for workers is going to rise, and if these workers are a part of the trade unions, so they have those negotiable skills, and they would be able to press firms to give them higher wages. Further, if the car manufacturing firms are experiencing a rise in their revenue and their earnings, so they would be providing higher incomes to car workers. However, it would be that in future, public transport demand increases if the government decides that too much of individual cars usage or commutation is giving rise to externalities. It might also fall if the government imposes taxes and discourages individual consumption of cars, or if more people consume public transport, or if public transport gets cheaper, so the demand for car workers is going to fall. Or if taxes are imposed on cars again, so the demand for car workers is going to fall because the demand for cars is going to fall. Or if the assembly lines get automated, so then these workers are going to get redundant, and these car workers might experience a fall in their incomes. It could also be that if there is an influx of immigration of car workers, so the supply of car workers could increase, causing their wages to fall, because firms could easily replace workers since now they've got a larger pool of car workers available. It could also be that if inflation in future rises, so instead of wages improving, real wages could fall. So car workers might experience a fall in their wages. Or if in future recession is there, again the real wages are going to fall. So you can conclude that yes, wages may rise if there are shortages of skilled workers, or if the demand for cars increase in the future. But if the economy experiences a recession, or if automation increases, So it might be possible that these car workers might experience a fall in their real wages. I hope you understood and enjoyed solving this paper with me. Stay tuned, subscribe. Happy learning. I'll be back with more such questions for you.